Miri AF and Finch on She Speaks on Controlled Opposition PSYOPs. She has excellent theories about our children being permanently educated at home. The TV show Friends plus Madeline McCann. All right, thank you for that one, Mod Gone. Thank you. Thanks so much, Jimmy, for having Dr. Corey on. Just made an appointment with the staff as I suspect I've been vax injured. Would love to see you have Dr. Ken Berry on, author of Lies My Doctor Told Me. Thank you.
I've heard about that book.
That is from Fully Laden Swallow. All right. They really should just allow Kashmir to separate and become its own independent country, instantly making it the country with the most kick-ass national anthem of all fucking time. Fred Pound. Really? I want to listen to it. Thank you for that one.
Kashmir.
I know, Kashmir, right? Joe Biden as first black female U.S. president for Pope. Savage. Cursed is anyone who sleeps with his sister, the daughter of his father, or the daughter of his mother. Then all the people shall say, Amen. And this is Cooperonomy 27 verse 22, King James Dore Bible. All right, Danny. Thank you, Danny. I've never been so far up ass of BB. Murray. Thank you. All right. Ha. Michael Ewan. I feel like an idiot forever listening to anything Peterson or Murray has said. Why is it so difficult for people to have ideological consistency? Thank you for that one. F you. Expose CUFI, the largest pro-Israel organization in the United States with over 10 million members, Christians United for Israel, CUFI. They also have members in the UK. Thank you. Hey, Jimmy, will you cover Nancy Mace? You and Kurt will be funny. Peter version 1. Thank you, Peter.
You know about that?
I didn't.
Yeah.
It's very strange.
Really? All right, maybe we'll cover it on Friday.
What's strange about it?
Because now there's something about her story being fishy.
Her story of being raped?
Yeah, it's like some weird, like, look, the story that she told
You show Jimmy.
in Congress or wherever she was when she told that, that's a crazy story on its own, because it sounded like a bunch of people that work currently in Congress did that. Did it not?
Huh.
That story she told on the floor of Congress about her ordeal?
Yeah, that sounded like she's talking about people that still work there.
I didn't listen to the whole thing. I thought she was naming some guy like a sheriff, and
she named like real like officials, but I'm like, that sounds crazy. But there's some news story about it which I didn't get into, but she has some connection. I can't remember. There's some reason to look at it again.
All right. I'll keep reading. Here we go. Peter version 1, you should play clips after the countdown if running late. Thank you, Peter. Savage, Christ is risen. He is risen indeed. Happy Easter. Thank you. Building 7, Jordan Peterson's and is Incel's hero. Do you know anything about Senator Ron Johnson wanting to reopen investigation into 9/11 recently? B-Man wants to know. Thank you, B-Man. Tired of Peterson's decade-long midlife crisis? Building 7 comes back. Hindus believe in Christ and call him Vishva Karman. That's from Savage. Jim Faraday's bags block EMF for phones and devices, making them safe to sleep near. Decent price in many sizes. Faraday Defense and Go Dark make good ones. EMP Doctor YouTube CH has good vids and on topic. Thank you so much. And that is from Carl. Hold on, Carl. Wow, that was a big one. You got the gong. I understand the gong turns some guys into a lady, but take it. Take that. Savage. Word banger comes from English breakfast exploding. Savage. The aliens fucked with physics again. Damn it. Savage. Gravity is caused by Ahriman. Okay. Now you've got my wormhole excited. Watch your mouth.
Watch your mouth.
Jeez, damn it. All I need now are nipple clamps and Kerp. Happy donut farts. Back to Jim.
So this is the new head of the WEF. And
nice.
I guess apparently they couldn't get an actual lizard to take the job, so they got this guy. And I like the bloody left eye. I really think it accentuates his wig. I mean, central casting. Can we get a crazy lizard person who rules the world? I mean, he's got everything going on. I think he has a cat on his lap that he just strokes. And then he presses a button.
Less appealing.
What's that?
We need someone less appealing than Klaus Schwab.
How did they do it?
They did it.
How did they find so? He looks like he caught the red eye to get his new position. That's what it looks like. Everybody keeps looking at the clouds for UFOs when they're right here, walking around, right in front of us. So guess what happened? So this guy, this is the old guy, Klaus Schwab. Mm. So they're opening up a probe into founder Klaus Schwab for which is kind of ironic, but is it a UFO probe kind of a thing? No. So they're looking into his fiscal malfeasance and some other It says, breaking, the World Economic Forum has officially opened an investigation into its founder, Klaus Schwab, for alleged financial and ethical misconduct.
Oh,
the WEF is all about their business model is financial and ethical misconduct.
Yes.
What are you talking about? Their whole thing.
Herr Schwab, may we speak with you?
The global elites are turning on each other, and I am so here for it. So this is very fishy and suspicious. So the fact that they're coming after Klaus Schwab, wait till you hear the things they say he did.
I can't wait.
I think so. He had already decided to quit because he wanted to step down because he wanted to spend more time walking up and down the beach in some kind of white frilly nut cup outfit. And how much of a piece of garbage do you have to be for the WEF to call you unethical? Right? That's like the Klan calling you. This guy discriminates.
The guy's just racist.
The founder quit after the board moved to investigate whistleblower allegations, which he denies, including use of luxury property and travel. That's what they all do. They all pick a place like Jackson Hole or Davos, and they go, "Hey, let's have a conference." You know, "Hey, let's go to Maui, have a conference." That's what they do. So this seems very fishy. It seems like there's kind of some kind of power struggle happening on the inside, and they're concocting charges. Do you know one of the charges is that he wasn't nice to women? Not that he was mean to women.
Would he want them to eat bugs?
But he was nice. Yeah, what did he want them to eat? Bugs and live in storage containers?
Did he give them less bugs than he was giving the men?
What did he do? Did he double dip a chip at a blood orgy? What did this guy do? Come on. Schwab allegedly asked staff to withdraw not millions, not billions, thousands of dollars from ATMs on his behalf and used WEF funds to pay for private in-room massages. Wait a minute. What? First of all, you're telling me Klaus Schwab doesn't have massage money, or is that just how much that women actually are going to charge to have to touch him?
Yeah.
But companies, they write this stuff off all the time. They get massages for their employees. Also alleges that his wife, Hilda, former employee, scheduled WE-funded meetings to justify luxury travel. That's what the whole point of this is like. It's like they're charging him with breathing.
Yeah. In-room massages, in quotes. I know people do get massages, and I guess where would they go if you got a private massage? Not in your room?
Right? So he didn't withdraw millions from their bank account to get a massage in a hotel room? He withdrew thousands? The guy in the head of the World Economic Forum, they're upset that he withdrew thousands.
He wasn't nice about it.
That's for a massage. That was just for the money to make the bed vibrate in the hotel room. I think that's what. You got to be kidding me! Doesn't the WF have man slaves for this kind of a thing? So this seems all very fishy, because he had already agreed to step down in 2027. I think it was. He had already had a plan that he was going to step down in 2027.
He did?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, so they want him out sooner.
Klaus Schwab steps down as World Economic Forum chairman after 55 years. They have this guy, Peter Letmeth. He's named the interim chair. That's this guy. That's Mr.
Oh, dear God.
Mr. Pretty Eyes. Come on, what's the matter, Klaus? Why the Indiana Jones movie melting Nazi face?
He looks like he opened the Ark of the Covenant.
As per the announcement, the Board of Trustees of WEF, the World Economic Forum, have appointed Peter Leithman as the interim chairman of the institution until they find a future chairman through a selection committee process. So in the meantime, we thought we'd go with the creepiest looking guy in the world. Hang on. The World Economic Forum's board meeting was held on Sunday, April 20th, where the trustees took note of Schwab's resignation, and after which they appointed that guy chairman.
Wink, wink.
Wink, wink. Wow. Well, we can't just put anybody in his place. We have to get somebody who's instantly repulsive just at sight. We have to get someone like that. We got him. We got him.
Interim. He's just interiming till we get someone with normal eyes.
So here's what he has to say. Right. So by the way, he doesn't think we have a right to water. That's his big thing, because he's the former head of Nestle. I don't know if you know anything about Nestle, but Nestle has been hoarding water, like water that belongs to everybody, and bottling it and charging people well, here, let me show you. Nestle makes billions bottling water it pays nearly nothing for.
Nice.
Nestle continues stealing the world's water during a drought.
Okay, what's crazy about it, look, Jimmy, that the company's operation is in Michigan. It's in Michigan. Where's Flint? They can't even get water.
Oh, that's right. The company's operation in Michigan reveals how it's dominated the industry by going into economically depressed areas with lax water laws. While Nestle extracts millions of liters from their land, residents have no drinking water. Just 90 minutes from Toronto, residents of a First Nations community try to improve the water situation as the beverage company extracts from their land. So that's the kind of stuff that this guy does. That's the kind of stuff.
Hello.
California authorities say Nestle is illegally gulping up public water. Environmentalists have accused the company of continuing to pump on expired permits and violating state law. I know about that.
Wow. Way to go, Gavin Newsom.
Because that's right.
This.
That's right here in California. So here's what he says.
Yeah. Go back to the first one.
So here's what
one. Yeah.
Yeah. This is what he says about. By the way, the former CEO of Nestle. How baseline evil is that? Imagine if Raytheon and Epstein Island formed a company that made chocolate milk powder. That's. So he's going to tell you. You can turn it down. I'll read it to you because we don't have to hear him say it. But he's got that crazy accent that makes him sound evil. If you remember, water is, of course, the most important raw material we have today in the world. In the question of whether we should privatize the normal water supply for the population, privatize the water supply. Privatize it. So whether you get water or not is left up to guys like this. It's left up to guys like Bill Gates and Klaus Schwab and Jeff Bezos and Al Gore. They're going to let you, they're going to decide if you get water. They're going to privatize it. So that's what he wants to do. He says that, and there are two different opinions on the matter. There are two different, I bet you I know what your opinion is. I bet you I can guess what your opinion is. Your opinion is privatize it and you get to control it. Am I right? Am I close? Uh-huh. And the people who think otherwise are crazy, right? Let me see. There are two different opinions on the matter. The one opinion, which I think is extreme, it's represented by NGOs. That stands for non-governmental organizations. And what do they think? Well, who bang on about declaring water a public right. What? What, you just live in a city and you get to have water? And they bang on about it. This means that as a human being, you should have a right to water. Now, keep this in mind. That guy thinks that that's extreme. That's an extreme opinion. Keep that in mind. Okay. But now his opinion is that's an extreme solution, that you should have a right to water. What in the F? Okay.
How about air?
The other view says, and this is his view, that water is foodstuff like any other. Okay. And like any other foodstuff, it should have a market value. And I should be able to control that market value. Personally, I believe it's better to give a foodstuff a value. First of all, it's not a foodstuff. It's water, right? You can go for a month or so without food. You can't go but for a couple of days without water and you're dead. That's why it's not called just foodstuff. It's called food and water. You can turn up. You can turn up. And by the way, Central Casting has done it again. He's got the right accent. You want to hear his accent?
Yes.
Listen.
Sodass wir alle bewusst sind.
They did it again.
No way.
So if you think it's a good idea to keep water in the hands of somebody like this, he gives one remote shit about you, you're more than stupid. You're actually anti-smart. So I don't know what's more comforting, his message that he's going to control the water or his German accent.
You got to hear the message in its original German to understand how Nestle sweet it is.
The extreme position that all humans should have a right to access clean water. He calls that extreme. Sure, I guess that's extreme if you're some kind of lizard alien. I could see that argument for sure. Yeah, sure. Again, it's not, water is not a foodstuff. Water is water. I bet his wife gives him lots of blowjobs just so she doesn't have to look at him. So, is there more to this? Yes.
Dass das etwas kostet. Und dann auch
and then the one that should take the specific measures
versucht, dass man mehr spezifisch für diesen Teil
for the part of the population that has no access. So it's just crazy talk.
Well, wait, Jimmy, is he talking about a right to water, like the water near where I live? Or is he talking about the entire world water supply?
That's what it sounds like. He's talking about the entire world's water supply.
Okay.
Like we live in Gaza, like that.
Yeah, they're calculating our calories of foodstuffs.
So we need to
water.
look at water as a precious resource now that Nestle owns most of the water.
Yeah.
Think of it like Nestle is like the De Beers of water instead of diamonds. That's what you should.
Yeah. Yeah, there's plenty of diamonds.
Yes. So here we go. Now he backtracks a little.
Oh.
And watch what he says.
Hello, I'm Peter Brabeck, the chairman of Nestle. There are apparently some misconceptions about my ideas on water.
So, oh yeah?
Let me make it clear from the beginning. I have always supported the human right to water.
No,
Everyone should have enough clean, safe water to meet their fundamental daily needs. About 50 to 100 liters per day.
He decides. So what is that, a 1-gallon jug? Anybody that starts deciding how much of something you can have is going to take it all away from you.
Especially when they do it with metric measurements, Jimmy.
Yeah.
Liters? I don't even know what that is, sir.
I can't believe that there's people still living on Earth that don't have a problem with this kind of a thing. And I can't believe that I actually know some of them.
Oh, I can't believe people don't want to give their guns up when there's this future of greatness in the world.
You know, after listening to this guy talk, I feel like I owe Pablo Escobar an apology. I think I judged him a little hard. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So listen to what he says.
But not to fill a pool or wash a car.
You shouldn't get enough water to fill your pool or wash a car. That's just for people like me.
Mm-hmm.
There is a difference. We must transform the way we think about water.
Yeah.
By 2025,
we should transform the way we think about water in a way that benefits me financially. That's the way we should transform how we think about water.
1.8 billion people will be living in regions without enough water. Water scarcity is the greatest challenge we face today. And we need to start recognizing water.
He acts like that bums him out. Water scarcity, it's a big challenge. Water scarcity, that's the thing I'm counting on. The thing I'm counting on, that people get desperate, I control the water. What's that? Hang on, Kurt. What's that, Kurt?
Oh, is it working?
No, go ahead. It is now.
Oh, he's like Willy Wonka. He's like the Nestle guy's going to control his Oompa Loompa workforce.
So here we go. It's more.
As a precious resource.
Yeah. So again, here it is. And then there he is. That's my favorite comparison.
Oh my gosh. Is that Blofeld?
But Jimmy, Nestle makes hot cocoa, which children love. So,
they should put his face on the cocoa.
Ladies, which one would you rather kiss? Seriously, that's my question. Me personally, if I had to choose, I would pick the guy that was hunting down Michael Myers in the Halloween franchise. That's the guy I would rather kiss.
Yeah, Donald Pleasance.
So I think there's some shenanigans up to why they got rid of Klaus Schwab. They're saying all the normal things that people in his position do, they're accusing him of doing. You know,
those aren't even things. I don't even understand how that would rate as a unethical behavior for the founder of it.
That's like saying, you know, LeBron James, he takes the ball and throws it right in the hoop. He doesn't even shoot it. He dunks it. And that's rude. So we got to get rid of him. But that's unethical. What they do. Yeah. Okay. Over to stuff.
All right, here we go, ladies and gentlemen. If the new guy doesn't have a cool accent like Schwab, he can fuck off. Ku Klux Krabs. Thank you for that one, Ku Klux. And also, D. Domingo says massage equals fingering the wormhole.
Oh.
I know. DD just went in for it.
People
okay, on that one.
Out of their minds.
Particles gain mass through ripples in Higgs field. Savage. He's got first edition holographic UGO cards mounted on his wall. Anthony Ringette. All particles would be massless without the Higgs. Okay. Theater and Fire, thank you so much. Winston Fahrenheit, grazie. Winston, thank you again. Doctor Who's TARDIS is parked in Oxford, UK. Do breakaway Civ pilots wear a helmet or have like a Captain Crunch Admiral hat? Phantomus Fanta wants to know. UFO theories, no matter how they are spun, all end at the same time. More military spending. Sorry, dragons and aliens aren't real. Time to grow up. Theater and Fire. Navy patented a method for creating 3D images in midair using to create a heat source, drawing hostile infrared guided missiles away from their target. Popular mechanics. Savage. Be like music. Thank you so much. Your mom is the 0 point. What about your mom? MSM skeptic. So the wreckage of the plane found has returned from the wormhole? Question. Healthy skepticism there. J.M. Herber. Ashton seems to be making a series of completely unsupported claims and simultaneously contradicting himself. It's good to have an open mind, but not so far your critical thinking falls out. J.M. Herber. Hold on, J.M.
Give examples. That's what's very helpful if you're.
Yeah, I want some examples. Yeah, so far, like when I was reading the chat, people weren't able to give me examples. I did get a couple of your links that I've shared with the team, everybody in the chat. Octagon, we're paying $80K for bags of bolts, losing F-35s, and our defense secretary is drunk texting classified war plans to the public. But sure, we have the magic tech we've kept secret all this time.
They have magic tech they kept secret all this time. What are you talking about?
Yeah,
what do you think all that tic-tac thing was?
Yeah.
What do you think all that drone crap is?
Right.
Of course, they've got a bunch of tech they've been keeping secret. It's not even a secret, a lot of it. A lot of it's been leaked many times. It happens all the time. It gets leaked.
I hear you on that.
What's that Phantom jet that they used to leak? And then they've had this stuff for a while. So
right, and we were all supposed to be crazy when we kept seeing chemtrails. Oh, that's nothing. You're wrong.
That was a great point. Chemtrails a thing which I really would scoff at, where I'm like, oh, that's real. And then they come out and go, oh, we didn't want the public was going to be against it, so we didn't want to say. Did you see that?
Yeah, maybe we are against chemicals. Maybe we're against random chemicals in the space above us.
Fluoride was the gold standard of things crazy people worry about.
Remember fluoride? Now.
Yeah, so, really kind of go fuck yourself with your debunking assuredness. Women have dicks now, so miracles are possible. Do you understand?
I keep looking for my dick. Anybody else? Anybody? Here we go. Theater and Fire. If you could put the universe in a tube, you'd end up with a very long tube, probably extending twice the size of the universe. Theater and Fire. Correction, it was not the SR-71 that was hypersonic, though still pretty fast at Mach 3.5. It was the X-15 rocket plane that can go nearly Mach 7 in the 60s. That's coming from Josh. Thank you, Josh. Okay, Theater and Fire, thank you so much. Savage, thank you very much. Gavin Hillick, when I had a case of highly energetic balls, my doctor told me to stay away from black holes. Wow. You certainly have an interesting medical history. Kate, thank you. Yes, the show will be posted today. As soon as our team wraps it up and posts it for our premium member content, you get the whole show in its entirety. Be Like Music, thank you so much. Savage, thank you so much. Again, Savage, thank you. Einstein would smack this dude. All right, Shane Toker, relax already. Cookie Knife, scientists have a lot of claims. Ask for proof. Cookie Knife, thank you, Cookie. You don't need wild theories. Innovation happens at the coalface of production. Just go to China to see reality. Dopther.
Yeah, China's got flying cars now, by the way.
Yeah.
So, you know what? Let's all hold on to this hope that we have orbs.
Orbs? I know.
We have planes swiping orbs. Maybe the plane hasn't arrived yet.
Kinky says, Jimmy, please ask Dr. Lawrence Krauss, physicist, University of Tucson, onto the show to provide professional commentary on Ashton Forbes stuff. Thanks. You got it, Kinky. Thank you for the recommendation. I will share that with the team. Got it. Let's see here. All right, I read that one. Peter version 1, the plane went to hell like Event Horizon. Theater and Fire, we identified that this probably maybe or possibly relays Scepter to beam the nucleus into Uranus, according to the Reddit Research Institute. Thank you for that one, amigo. I know there's a lot going on there. Corn Pop, from what I figured out from my research, I think that all of the modern day UFO abductions are CIA, MK Ultra related. Corn Pop.
Well, okay. There's definitely a link with all that crap, but I don't know what it is. I mean, that's easy to say. Clearly, there's something because all those agencies are deeply intertwined with that kind of crap.
Right.
Especially during the time of the alien stuff. But, you know, do I believe that it started when L. Ron Hubbard and what's his name, Parsons, the rocket guy, touched dicks in the desert? I don't know. That's
nothing wrong with touching dicks. Okay, just want to make sure everybody knows that. Back to Mr. Jim.
So the meltdown continues in the world of the Zionists. So they cannot lose control of the narrative, right? Because if they lose control of the narrative over the Israel-Gaza, they will never be able to deploy another army in the Western world ever. And that's coming from the head of Palantir, which I'm going to show you in a second. But here is Jordan Peterson. He's back to try to rescue the Israeli narrative and shame Joe Rogan. So the same people who screamed about, you remember when people like Don Lemon and Andrew Cuomo would say, we got to have guardrails on podcasts. Now he's here to tell you the same thing because people are telling you the truth about Israel. And he gets paid by the Daily Wire. He gets, which, Kurt, correct me if I'm wrong, that money, how much money did he get?
What I heard was 60 million.
That you heard he got 60 million.
Yeah, and that's why he's dressed like a tailor because he's going to try to sew up the narrative that's been tearing.
Anyone dressed like a movie theater usher in his Dayglow blazer is a pretender. But anyway, so listen to what he said to Joe Rogan. He says all the things that they complained about establishment media, corporate media saying about Joe Rogan during COVID, he's now going to do. But he does it in a lot of words, uses a lot of words. Watch this. And so Douglas Murray was the bad cop. And now Jordan Peterson is the nice cop. He's going to try and butter Joe up, but try to get him to put guardrails. Watch.
You also set that conversation up, but it poked up and made itself manifest in that conversation. And the issue is, how do you identify the psychopathic pretenders? And it's even worse now.
How do I identify the psychopathic pretenders in this argument? The people who justify slaughtering children for land. To me, those are the psychopaths. Anybody who justifies a genocide in Gaza has a bit of psychopathology in them. Would you agree, Kurt?
I mean, it seems a little bit the pot calling the kettle black. I think he has guardrails on his lapels for this interview.
So here we go.
You also set that conversation up, but it poked up and made itself manifest in that conversation. And the issue is, how do you identify the psychopathic pretenders? And it's even worse now, and then make a barrier, right? Now, the right was calling for the left to do that for decades, and they didn't, and they couldn't. And the left is not good at drawing barriers, partly temperamentally. The right is somewhat better, but there's no shortage of monstrosity there. And so then the question is, how do you draw the line? And that's kind of what I was... Because I've been watching these right-wing, they're not right-wing, these psychopathic types manipulate the edge of the conservative movement for their own gain. And a lot of that's cloaked in anti-Semitic guys. There's plenty of...
Oh, so anybody who disagrees with the Israel narrative is a psychopath cloaking it in anti-Semitic garb. I mean, come on.
What's my gain?
What, right. What is my gain?
I don't get guitar money.
Right. Nobody gets paid from guitar. Dave Smith doesn't get money. I don't get money. Joe Rogan doesn't get money for going against Israel, which is the worst.
It creates problems. It makes things awkward. That's what it does for me.
It makes things awkward. It makes, just like me telling the truth about COVID. Didn't get me money. got me the opposite, telling the truth about Russiagate. The people who got the money from Russiagate are the people who wrote books pushing Russiagate, and they were invited on every TV show everywhere. That's where the money is. The money is in the establishment narrative. Right now, the money is, I mean, according to Kurt, he got $60 million from the Daily Wire, which that's got to be Israeli money, right? Where does that money come from, Kurt?
I don't know, Jeremy Boring's poor management.
Yeah, okay.
It sounds like the gig comics go to in Israel where they overpay you and the crowd stinks, okay? But they pay you like way more than it's worth for the show that you just did out there. And then they're like, hey, please say good, nice things about Israel. So it's just a form of like, propaganda work. I think when he talks about like how something poked its head out and manifest, I swear I think this, all his wild color suits is his cognitive dissonance and having to hold these two things in his head. And it comes out in his suits. I swear to God, I think that's what that is.
Well, how many more trombones does he have to add to dressing like a music man for you to figure out this is a performance? Here, let's watch.
Anti-Semitism on the left, too, by the way. So it's not unique to the right.
Well, but particularly now.
Yes, particularly now.
Right.
And so, you've let your curiosity guide you, your curiosity and your desire for knowledge, this quest, you've let that guide you as a podcaster. And by the way, I'm trying to work through exactly the same sort of thing. How do you know, given your radical increase in stature over the last 10 years, how do you know when your curiosity and even your skepticism about the fact that things aren't the way that people say they are, because that's certainly been demonstrated in the last 10 years, how should anyone decide what guardrails to put up? Like, what do you...
So, Joe, you're letting people come on and tell the truth about Israel. We've got to stop. They're psychopaths, they're anti-Semites, and they're on the right even. So you got to put guardrails up. You got to stop this, Joe.
I would like to do a debate and not debate anyone. I would like them to convince me to not see the things I already just saw.
Yeah. Yes.
Like...
This is real. Like, he's really doing. He's like, how do you got to get some guardrails there. You got to get some guardrails, which is exactly what Don Lemon used to say on CNN. It was exactly what Don Lemon told Elon Musk.
Did he dress like Captain Kangaroo to do it?
Look for. Do you have a conceptual system worked out for that? Like. Because
what in the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah.
Do I have a conceptual? How do I do? Joe, you've got to have this is the old. You've got to have standards. You got to have guardrails. You got to censor. You can't let anybody. You can't just have free flowing conversations on your show, Joe. And he loved it up until someone started telling the truth about what's happening in Israel, Gaza. And someone started telling the truth about Israel and how every war we've ever fought in the Middle East is at the behest of Israel. Iraq was because of Israel. Libya, Israel. Syria. Oh, the whole thing. Now they want us to go into Iran, and they really got to get us into Iran. And that's why they're doing this. This is a full court press that's happening. There's a full court press by the Zionists. We got to get into Iran. We got to do it. We got it because they have the Greater Israel Project.
Yeah, that little bizarre neocon alliance, their two big projects were Ukraine and then the Israel thing. I think that's what the mutual cooperation is about. And now that the pyramid scheme is collapsing, if you recall, what do you have to do when it's collapsing? You have to go to war to get out of it. You know? Hey, we lost $2 trillion. We got to go to war. Hey, the Great Depression, we got to... FDR's thing didn't work. We got to go to war. It's always the solution when the bottom drops out of the pyramid scheme.
So... here's what Glenn Greenwald says. He says, so many longtime champions of independent media now subtly mimicking the most sanctimonious corporate media mavens. Rogan doesn't have sufficient editorial guardrails as soon as he hosts Israel critics. This show needs more vetting. Too much unfettered discussion.
Why don't you invite them to be guardrails, and then Jordan and Douglas Murray could be guardrails?
They did.
Right?
He brought
you
out
could
Douglas.
be the guardrails, but you're not. You're going, you got to stop this.
You got to stop it. Douglas Murray was right there. He's had on Gad Saad. He's had on Douglas Murray. He's had on Elon Musk. He's had on the biggest Israel cuck of all, Donald Trump. That's just
Dr. Rich Voss.
That's just Dr. Rich Voss. That's just off the top of my head that he's had on in the last few months. But he brought on Dave Smith, and oh my God, psychopath.
If that is his name. If that is his real name.
If that's his real name. So this guy says, like Cherubis in Greek mythology, is that how you pronounce
Cerberus.
that? Cerberus? I'm not well read. How do you say it?
I like that better, Cherubis.
Cerberus? Okay. Yeah. I like Cherubis.
Me too.
Like Cherubis in Greek mythology, the multi-headed guardian dog of the Judeo-Christian asylum patrols the culture scene and makes sure that no one leaves the world of the dead. They use obfuscation, confusion, and fake sophistication or complexity, classic sophistry, to sow doubt and hide the plain and bright light of the truth and morality. He's got it. This guy's nailing it. Murray, Patterson, Sam Smith, Bill Maher, and many others, they are all different heads of the same monster, dog guarding the same civilization of the dead. Well said. So he's retweeting this, and Andrew Torba, who says Peterson is on the Rogan today. He's there to try and gaslight Joe into gatekeeping the, quote, psychopaths who dare to criticize Israel and from being on his show.
You see, if you say Jews in Israel, I think that's a real big mistake.
I think that's a mistake,
very
too.
Questionable.
Yeah.
Like, why are you saying that? You see what the problem is, and the people that you tell me are bad, they're trying to conflate those two things.
Yeah.
Are you on
I don't
different
conflate
sides or
Jews
not?
with I don't conflate Jews with Zionism. I don't conflate Jews with Israel. Most of the Jews I know are against Zionism, and they're against what Israel's doing, the Greater Israel Project. What's that?
Most of them don't live in Israel.
And most of them don't live in Israel. And they feel very safe. They don't need Israel to feel safe. He claims these people do it for their own gain, when in reality, they get debanked, demonetized, and endless. Yes, that's correct. So it's hard for us to tell the truth about Israel. We get demonetized, our videos. We can't show pictures. We can't show the videos of what's happening in Gaza. And so why this full court press? Why is this so happening now? Why does Bill Maher and Douglas Murray and New York Post and now Jordan Peterson, why does all of these, and Constant, whatever his name is, all these people just full court press trying to get Joe Rogan to stop talking about Israel? And here's why. This is the head of Palantir. And this is from about a year ago. I showed at our live Rumble Time show. And he's going to tell you why this is the most important, essential fight. Because they can't lose the narrative around Israel-Gaza. It's because this is when the college protests were in full steam. And this is what he said.
I think is a often overlooked part of this battle is we kind of just think these things that are happening across college campuses especially are like a sideshow. No, they are the show. Because if we lose the intellectual debate, you will not be able to deploy any army in the West ever.
So this is not a sideshow, what's happening at these colleges, these college protests. They are the show, because if we lose control of the narrative, we'll never be able to deploy an army in the West ever again.
Well, that's how you win. They lose the narrative. That sounds great.
So that's what this is all about.
Who's we, by the way?
Well, he's talking him. So he works for the CIA. That's what. So Palantir is. That's Palantir. He's the head of Palantir, which is a CIA. Yes, just another CIA cutout. And that's what. So when he says we, he means the globalists and the international security state and the military industrial complex, the people who actually run the world.
Right. His Palantir named after the evil crystal ball from Lord of the Rings.
That's right. Correct.
You can spy on anyone, but it will make you insane and evil.
Yes.
That Palantir.
So here, I'm just going to play it for you one more
I
time.
think is a often overlooked part of this battle is we kind of just think these things that are happening across college campuses especially are like a sideshow. No, they are the show. Because if we lose the intellectual debate, you will not be able to deploy any army in the West ever. And that's of course our adversaries. What I think is a...
So there you go.
I guess you better not debate.
Yeah, better not debate. So Jordan Peterson went on Fox after that. And he accuses anybody who... This is from Chernovich. So I think Chernovich is on the right side of the Israel question. Am I wrong about this?
I don't know. I haven't seen him in a long time, but I remember him saying it seemed anti-Semitic to say Epstein was working for Israel.
Oh, really?
So, but I don't know. He does what he feels. So,
well, here's
this looks right to me. What he's saying right now.
He says Jordan Peterson is accusing people who disagree with him on foreign wars of being mentally ill. This is Stasi level stuff. He also wants to tie Christ the King to sociopathy and terrorism. Let's listen. Hang on, what happened? Do I not have this video?
I think the most important thing to do first is to draw a distinction between the political and the psychological and not to collapse them together. So imagine this. Imagine that there's a group of individuals, about 4% of the population, who have a set of personality characteristics that have been described as dark tetrad. So they're Machiavellian. They use their language to manipulate. They're narcissistic. They want unearned social status and reputation. They're psychopathic, which makes them free of empathy and parasitical and predatory. And they're sadistic. So they take positive delight in the unnecessary suffering of others. Now, those people also use false cries of victimization, let's say, to manipulate, and they're entitled.
That sounds exactly like Israel. It sounds exactly like Benjamin Netanyahu. It sounds exactly like the Zionists. They're the victims. Anti-Semitism, they're the victims.
He shows up with his dry cleaning and draws a cartoon picture of a bomb to show your Congress.
Seek vengeance when it's unwarranted, and they protest loudly and make very public cries for reparations that would be self-serving. Okay, now
isn't that what Israel, the whole Israel project is, reparations for World War II? Isn't that the whole? Am I wrong about this, Kurt? Isn't that the whole idea that they needed a safe place?
I guess we didn't want to make it official because it doesn't make sense that would be the reparations, but it kind of. I never looked into it because I was like, well, I don't know, World War II. By the way, I think the Holocaust happened 100% because it would take a crime that big to generate this kind of pure spite, hatred, and vengeance. You know what I mean? To put that into somebody's subconscious like that, where you're like, these are the Amalekites that we could just wipe them all out.
I just think does Doug Stanhope know that Jordan Peterson's raiding his closet? Anyway, here we go. They're all narcissists. They're so narcissistic that they have to wear thrift store clothing so people will notice them. Anyway, here we go.
Those people operate is they look for what patterns of belief form groups that they can infiltrate and then capitalize on. And that happens on the right. We did a report, the same group, on the use of Christ as king as a manipulative strategy by bad actors, hypothetically on the right. And
so is he saying Candace Owens, a bad actor? She's a psychopath who infiltrates because she claims Christ as king, her religion. So this is how desperate they're getting. This is called desperation. They have to control the narrative.
Well, Jordan Peterson is really weird when he starts talking religious stuff because as far as I know, he's not a Christian. But he really, if you want to talk about infiltrating people, I'd say the guy saying the Freemason shit.
This report identified the same sort of people on the left, but it's not primarily political. They're wolves in sheep's clothing who look for where there's power and value and then adopt those beliefs as a surface camouflage so that they can elevate their moral status. Now, and this has become worse in recent years, as far as I'm concerned, because the evolved strategies that we have for dealing with these psychopathic narcissistic types, don't work well online. And so the psychopaths can get away with their terrible manipulations online, and they can find like-minded people, and they can escape from any reputational consequences. And so there's always been psychopaths. Those are the Pharisees, for example, that Christ points to, the religious pretenders. Those are the people who use God's name in vain and claim moral virtue and even religious devotion. Well, all they're doing is feathering their own nests and furthering their own narrow interests. And the web, social media, anonymity enables them to organize and also hides them much more effectively. And this is a problem in religious organizations. It's a problem in political organizations, and it pathologizes the whole culture. You know, most people, 80% of Americans agree on virtually everything. And then there's these fringe people, and they're not political. They're psychopathological narcissists who cloak themselves in political guise. And we all have to learn to distinguish between the political and the psychological. We're not good at it.
So here's what Glenn Greenwald says. How come Rumeysa Öztürk, that's that woman from Tufts University, I think, a foreign national in the United States legally, is in prison for having written an op-ed critical of Israel, but Jordan Peterson, a foreign national in the United States, is free to praise Israel and call Americans who oppose it psychopaths? And Douglas Murray, too. So you're not a psychopath if you're pro-Israel, slaughtering children and committing a genocide and cutting off water and killing over 200 journalists and bombing refugee camps. Even Wolf Blitzer was freaked out. Remember that? That was over a year ago. Wolf Blitzer was talking to a guy from the IDF. He goes, so you just drop a bomb on a refugee camp because you think there's a terrorist in there?
This is the tragedy of war.
This is the tragedy of war. No, but you know that there's innocent women and children there, and you just bomb them?
He goes, did you get the guy? He goes, I cannot confirm.
Then Wolf Blitzer said, did you at least get the guy? He goes, no, we don't know if we got him. But you did kill 400 children.
Yeah, it's a tragedy.
Yeah, it's a tragedy.
Don't be all narcissist about it, Wolf.
So those people, the people advocating for that, they're not the psychopaths. Mm-hmm. The people who are writing op-eds criticizing that are the psychopaths who deserve to be thrown in jail, according to Jordan Peterson. So there was a lot of things Jordan Peterson has said in the past I liked, and I was glad he was there to say them. But again, this Israel thing completely collapses the right, or a big chunk of it. The people who were free speech warriors, they completely collapse under the weight of Israel.
Well, some do, some don't.
So yes, lots of them though, but not all of them. That's for sure. Even Christians. So and here's how this is why they have to control this narrative. Even Christians are waking up. My parents lead a Bible study at an assisted living facility, and 4 ladies older than 80 years old started bringing up what's happening in Gaza and saying they are against it. It took 7 months, but it's happening. So they're losing the narrative to everybody.
Yeah,
and by the way, here's what... Hey, partner. That's what Kurt has to say.
Hello there, partner. On George's tweet, I thought he was being a little bit Pharisaic. That story he told is crazy. That the person for saying Christ is king is the one who's...
Yes.
Are you joking? Versus a guy who's not Christian at all. For some reason, he talks to Christians, and he's paid by the Daily Wire to do that. That's very strange.
And he just keeps using that word psychopath over and over, as if he's not describing himself in this situation.
Oh, I think he's like a white zombie, like the classic.
He's. You could tell because he never overreacts to anything, and he just has that blank look on his face. He's talking about his monsters, not yours.
He's projecting Jungian. I mean,
yes,
it's crazy watching it.
It is. This is like Jung 101. Here's what Dave Smith says. I've always admired many things about Jordan Peterson, particularly Maps of Meaning and his initial rise to fame, taking on the woke insanity. I was pleasantly surprised that he complimented the three of us from the debate on Joe Rogan. That's about as good as I could expect from the Daily Wire employee. I was a bit surprised at his take on keeping the psychopaths away. Now I'm just a non-expert comic who's never been, but it seems sloppy for our clinical psychologist to just throw out a mass diagnosis like this. He's mentioning the Groypers as falling for this category. I certainly have my issues with them, and I can count on their leader to trash me anytime I'm making waves, but this just seemed incredibly unfair. The Groypers are guilty of what are the Groypers?
Well, I mean, here, I'll appraise them psychologically, and yes, I am an expert. They're like repressed tradcath, like slender gay men online that follow Nick Fuentes, the Catboy Fuhrer, as he's known.
Okay.
So that, and he's actually an example, by the way. He does suck. I think he was because what he did on January 6th, urging people in.
Yeah.
I think he was on the hook where he has to do this, and he doesn't like doing it and would like to stop. But all these guys in that organization are deeply repressed gay incels. It's really crazy.
Okay, so he goes on to say the Groypers are guilty of being immature and saying mean things about Jews on Twitter. And while I don't like that, I wouldn't think it rises to... I didn't get the whole thing. I wouldn't think it rises to the level of such a claim. If we are truly interested in calling out psychopathy, why not start with the people dropping bombs on babies and advocating for more? How about the people signing bombs that are on their way to do just that? How about the people who have advocated for the last 5 catastrophic wars and, despite being wrong about all of them, are advocating for the next war? Why not have one standard and apply it across the board? That was really well said.
Yeah. By the so-called Dave Smith.
The so-called
if
Jew.
That is who he is.
Yeah, the guy who claims Jewish heritage.
Like a colonist.
So Ian Carroll says, Dave, just to clarify, I believe I am psychopath for saying don't kill kids. And Mr. Fine is a U.S. congressman for saying, may the streets overflow with blood. Hope that clears things up. So there's a U.S. congressman, this guy, Representative Randy Fine, who tweeted out, kill them all, no mercy, bombs away. And then he said, there is no suffering adequate for these animals. May the streets of Gaza overflow with blood. But he's not the psychopath. The psychopaths are Candace Owens, Dave Smith, the Ian Carrolls, the Jimmy Dores, the Kurt Metzgers, the people who are against bombing children.
I haven't really gotten, a lot of people say anti-Semitic things to me. I think a lot of people think I'm Jewish. But this is like he blood libeled himself. This is the kind of thing, if you accuse him of saying it and he didn't say it, it would be like, that's a serious blood libel.
Yeah.
This is crazy. This is like something you would think enemies of Jews would write to make them look bad.
Yes. I already got that. Okay. So there is another, and so again, let's remember why they have to put this full court press on and why they have to project their evil onto other people who are against the evil. Because that's what this is. And they want guardrails. Guardrails? On Joe Rogan's show? You mean to think that you hated before, but now you want because somebody's telling the truth about Israel? This is the guy. Remember this head guy at Palantir, CIA.
I think is a often overlooked part of this battle is we kind of just think these things that are happening across college campuses especially are like a sideshow. No, they are the show. Because if we lose the intellectual debate, you will not be able to deploy any army in the West ever.
And that's what these people are about. They're about That's why we have 900 military bases around the world. That's why we have like 400 of them surrounding China. That's why we have hundreds of them in the Middle East and Africa. Because that's how we do things. We use our military to overthrow governments, install puppets, steal their natural resources, and slaughter their people in the process. Okay.
But then China will have the resources. Jimmy,
Yeah, I
and
know.
I'm just saying what the great Condoleezza Rice said.
Yeah.
Do you want Russia and China to rule the world? Somebody has to rule the one world government of the future. Why is that a conspiracy? And yet they all seem to believe we need a one world government, and they say it. And then when somebody brings it up, they go, "That's crazy. You're making a conspiracy." But they all believe it.
But they all believe it. Okay, over to Steph.
Okay, thank you so much. All right. Dobther, thank you, Dobther. Much appreciated. Fantomas, Fanto, grazie. Ard Dreamy, where does the plane pop back into space-time? Or maybe the better question is, when does the plane come back? Savage, thank you so much. Lightning Strike. Building 7, thank you so much. Fantomas Fanto, again, thank you very mucho much. Pocho Villa, there was a 1989 sci-fi movie called Millennium of an airline that disappeared like the Malaysian plane. Check it out. Thank you for that one. Fake account. The blue spirals been seen in the night sky are 100% 0-point energy. Tests if this footage is real. Fake account. Thank you.
Hey, I have a question.
Yes.
What?
Has anyone brought up who was on the plane? Do we know who was on the plane and their level of importance in this world?
There was these scientists that were bringing some intellectual, property to China.
You can show Jimmy.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, that's what that was about.
Oh, what a coincidence.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were, what was it? What was that group that they were from? I forgot. Okay, here we go. Back to this. Mutahar from YouTube channel Some Ordinary Gamers debunks this with solid proof. The portal animation is an asset from a video asset collection. Chris the Ish.
It is not the same asset. That debunking has been debunked. But whatever.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Building 7, if LSD was human. Oh, okay. Thank you, Building 7. All right, here we go. Hey, Shadow Military General, we need to wormhole them now, and someone get me a fresca. Phantomus Phanto. Ask him about Corridor Crew's debunking of this video, and then we just responded that Diadin. Kyle, maybe Jimmy should start smoking weed again. I don't think so.
Why should I start smoking weed again?
Chris D, the unvaccinated, knows what's up. There's one reason alone that I'm not ready to accept this man's explanation of what happened in the missing airliner. It would involve accepting that Don Lemon was right. Fret Pound.
Fret Pound, I said that same exact thing. Was Don Lemon right all along?
That's what we want to know.
Because he said that, and we all called him a fool.
Yep.
I think we still call him a fool. Dave Domingos, it's important to wash your orbs. Watch your mouth.
Wash your orbs.
You have to get Dr. Stephen Greer on the show. He knows far more and has been briefing our president since Clinton. Unacknowledged and The Lost Century. Watch them. Please. Ashton is spot on too. Ask her. It's the Unacknowledged and The Lost Century.
Yeah, he has some good info, but he's like real big on this like Buddhist, all the aliens are our friends, and you go to a retreat and then you all concentrate and then you'll see like lights. Sounds like a Ouija board to me, which is kind of creepy. But I'll bet they've had all this tech for quite some time. As soon as you have anti-gravity, you have time travel. You automatically have that when you have anti-gravity technology. I saw Mark Andreessen being interviewed by Megyn Kelly. Somebody can find it and he was told, no, he's a piece of shit, that guy. But he said he was told that the government classified a whole branch of physics for 70 years because they were telling him not to get into AI because they're only going to let a few people do AI. And he goes, well, how can you even control that? He goes, we closed off a branch of physics for 70 years. So yeah, we can do that. So I heard that story, which is strange. Then that guy from the White House made that announcement, which I'd like an explanation for.
Right.
Yeah.
That came from the White House.
I don't know what, like I said, if you think it's all debunked, I want to know what you think the satanic panic was. If you think that was debunked because it was not.
Okay. I forgot to give you the gong, John. John, you got the gong. Thank you for your generosity. Liquor Giant or my wife, please. Please. Oh, okay. Let's see here. Oh, I read that one already. Got it. All right. Zekeness. Thank you very much, Zekeness. Much appreciated. All right. Let's do this. Kurt, what's our next op? Fret Pound wants to know.
Oh, I had it. Oh, shoot. Where the place where Frank Zappa grew up, Edgewood Arms. Edgewood Armory.
Oh,
That's
really?
where they did a bunch of LSD and Benadryl testing on American soldiers for MK Ultra, a bunch of Nazis. And Frank Zappa's dad worked for them. And that's where he grew up, in Edgewood Armory.
Okay. My_war, if you spent thousands on a massage, then you must have got the John Travolta special, which is the massage and tug.
No, it's burgers. You get a burger and a massage.
I wonder how much extra Klaus has to pay for wormhole to mouth happy endings. Callaway.
Okay.
Back to Jimmy.
Guess what they're doing in the UK? They're admitting finally, under the guise of we're doing research, they're going to have to do experiments to dim the sun, given green light by the UK government, because
what could go wrong?
It's great news for the UK, because you know how they're always getting too much sun.
Yeah.
In the UK. Yeah, it's sunny old England, as they say.
We need to bog up the complexion.
How are you going to know the experiment's working? I mean, if there's one major complaint about the United Kingdom, it's that they get way too much sunshine.
Yeah.
I mean, how was Jack the Ripper supposed to sneak around and kill anybody on a bright sunny day? Am I right?
That's true. Time for day killing.
What is the raincoat company supposed to do now? Switch to London SPF? Is that what they're going to do? Come on. So, you know this is gonna. They're doing this with aluminum. You know they're spraying aluminum. We already. So there's that.
Why?
That's how they do this.
But I mean, why are they? Here's my question.
So they
know.
Kurt, they control the. By the way, this weather control thing is not, again, it's one of those things like you're saying, oh, Jimmy, come on, the vaccine's safe and effective. The weather control thing is real. Do you know that the Mahmoud Ahmadinejad went on the floor of the UN and said that they were creating famine in his country? They were controlling the weather, but it never got that never got reported in the United States, did it?
I did hear it, and I was like, "Oh, that's something stupid." But at the time, I was unaware that we have a treaty signed in the '70s to not use weather weapons. So if we didn't have that, we wouldn't have a treaty about it. There was no nuclear treaty before nukes, you know?
Scientists are planning on dimming the sun in a bid to curb global warming. Again, with this global warming, it all start. When do you start measuring global warming? They like to start in the late 18th. We're actually in a cooling period right now. If you look, it just depends on when you start counting from. There used to be ice all the way covering all of North America. There used to be ice everywhere.
How about before you do this?
And that all went away before we started burning oil. That all went away before we started burning oil. That's how we got the Great Lakes. So this feels very much like a scam. Go ahead, Steph.
I'm just going to say, how about before we start dimming the sun, why don't we just cure worldwide hunger?
Yeah, how about that?
I think would have caused more of it. Also, all the people that can't believe something could have happened with that Malaysian plane, they're planning on dimming the sun.
Yes.
What are you talking about? Look at the things you're looking at.
The UK government is set to announce funding of up to 50 million pounds of funding for sun dimming experiments in the coming weeks. Let me tell you something. They're already I'm going to cover this more on Friday. The controversial technology aims to reflect sunshine back into the atmosphere, which could help to temporarily limit rising temperatures. And it's going to screw up natural cloud formation. It's going to screw up the weather. It's screwing, but they're already doing that.
How's it going to affect plant life?
Yes. You know how plants like being sprayed with aluminum and salt? They say they're just doing with salt. Believe me, they're spraying aluminum.
Well, I know the aluminum part of that, and they've been doing it for quite some time, by the way.
Yes.
So that they can do that global 3D mapping. That's what that layer of aluminum allows them to do, is map the entire area when they do it. And that's from a long time ago. I don't know now what they're doing. I know Dubai had those floods because they were doing this.
Your brain would have to be an innie for you to think this is a good idea.
Well, I don't think it's for the reason they're saying, just because I don't feel like that's, oh, the UK has been really heating up. I don't think it really has, and it's always cloudy. So why on earth would you be doing that there? Why would you? It doesn't make sense.
It comes as the National Environment Research Council, NERC, which is one letter away from nerd, announced on April 3rd that it will invest 10 million pounds of new funding to study these solar radiation management schemes. Wow. According to Professor Mark Symes, the program director for the government's Advanced Research and Invention Funding Agency, known as ARIA, there would be a small controlled outdoor experiments on particular... They're already doing this.
Yeah.
They're already doing this. These experiments could include injecting aerosols into the atmosphere or brightening clouds to reflect the sunlight. What could go wrong? What could go wrong? And of course, this small experiment is just going to involve the entire population.
Yeah.
You know, these are the science people. These are the kind of science guys that sank Atlantis. Those kind of guys.
Do you remember Jimmy, they were advertising, doing something with mirrors just like that in space, where you could order sunlight to the area you wanted. You know, like it's late at night. It was like an app they were promising with this satellite. So right away, and that was a while ago. No, I don't think they really had the tech to do that. I think that was a thing but this was from a year or two ago. So I doubt it's anything to do with climate change, but how much you want to bet you're going to be able to buy sunlight, or they're going to giveth and taketh away the light when you need to grow crops if you're not doing what they want. Whatever. Remember nitrogen? They had to get the nitrogen away? And it was just to take over all the
that's right.
food.
So they could take over the Dutch farms. There was too much nitrogen.
How about I turn the sun off for your stupid farm and then you sell it to me? How about that? And then
one day they can charge us for sunlight. Imagine if you I saw them bring this up on Redacted. Imagine if they you just listened to the government and you were a good little boy and you covered your property with solar panels, and now they're going to dim the sun because it needs direct sunlight. It's not just any sunlight. Your solar panel needs direct sunlight. If it's cloudy, you're effed. The professor says, we will be announcing who we have given funding to in a few weeks, and when we do so, we will be making clear when any outdoor experiments might be taking place. It's already taking place.
I think they did in California last year.
One of the missing pieces in this debate was physical data can only tell us so much. I mean, the models about climate change that have proven to be wrong consistently? You mean those models?
Yeah, I don't know how they think they can model that.
We have strong requirements around the length of time experiments can run for and their reversibility, and we won't be funding the release of any toxic substances to the environment. Last year was the hottest year on record. Since when? Becoming the first year for the average temperatures to exceed the threshold of 1.5 Celsius above pre-industrial temperatures. Again, January 2025 was also the warmest on record, with an average global temperature hitting 13.23 Celsius, 1.75 Celsius above pre-industrial levels. Okay. How did they melt all that ice during the Ice Age? How hot was it for it to... How did that happen?
No. I don't have a model. I need a computer model.
The 1.5 Celsius threshold is a target established in the Paris Agreement in 2015, where a bunch of people flew private jets to the Paris so they could figure out how to fix climate change. Believe me, they're not going to outlaw private jets. You know who else is cheering this on? You know who's cheering this on? Mark Zuckerberg and Jeff Bezos from their 450-foot yachts with 6 diesel engines. They're not. They're also cheering this on. Yes, dim the sun. So
Oh yeah. The owner of a bridal party, Space Cock, is telling you,
yes,
you should get less sun.
Barack Obama goes to Africa, tells people in Africa you can't have air conditioning in cars because the planet will overheat. And then he gets on a private plane, flies back to his beachfront property. And then he flies to his other beachfront property in Hawaii, where he's building an illegal seawall, which they got a cutout for. Because seawalls erode the beach down the road. But they got it. So he's buying. Isn't it funny that people who believe in oceans rising and climate change keep flying around the world in private jets, buying beachfront property like John Kerry? They're never going to say, hey, maybe we should close the 900 military. The number one emitter of carbon as an organization in the world, guess what it is? It's the U.S. military. No one ever says, hey, maybe we should close those 900 military bases. Maybe we shouldn't blow up the Nord Stream pipeline. So the same people telling me about climate change being real are the same people urging more war, more military bases, more private jet travel, more private yacht travel, more beachfront properties, and more blowing up of the Nord Stream pipelines. I don't see a disconnect. Do you see a disconnect there at all? I see one.
I mean, not if you're run by like a secret ancient order of vampires that want to rule the night by day. Like, what is the motive here?
They're going to tackle climate change. Are you going to tackle it by closing 900 military bases and stop blowing up Nord Stream pipeline? No. Are you going to tackle it by one private jet flight emits more carbon than my car does in my lifetime?
Wait, what's that summit there?
You're going to get rid of the 450-foot yachts, which is 150 foot bigger than a football field, that use 4 giant diesel engines. You're going to get rid of that? No. But I got to have an electric stove and drive a scooter and eat bugs and live in a 15-minute city.
Yeah. Wait, aren't they clearing out the rainforest to make a highway?
They literally just cut down a big swath of the Amazon rainforest so they could put in a road so they could have a conference about fighting climate change.
It's private too. No one can use it who lives there.
Yep. You don't feel like a sucker? You don't feel like a sucker that they're literally clearing the Amazon rainforest so they can put in a road so they can have a conference. They can't have a conference in a city that already exists. Greenhouse. So in a world within the 1.5 Celsius threshold, experts say that many of the deadliest effects of climate change, extreme heat, food scarcity, and insect-borne diseases, are reduced. Greenhouse gases like carbon dioxide are thrown into the atmosphere by human activities and are key drivers of climate change. It also greens the planet. They don't tell you that. It also greens the planet. The planet is way greener than it was 10 years ago.
You said it's going to be a desert, not way greener than when I was a kid. The forest was almost all gone.
That's right.
That's what I was told.
And now the world, the entire world is way greener. Scientists are increasingly worried that carbon dioxide levels aren't falling fast enough to prevent catastrophic global warming. They said after they get out of their private jet, after they cleared more Amazon rainforest so they could have their climate change meeting. With the collapse of ocean currents and giant ice sheets becoming a looming threat. The uncomfortable truth is that that most of the Earth's lifetime there weren't polar. The uncomfortable truth is that our current warming trajectory makes a number of such tipping points distinctively possible over the next century. This has driven increased interest in approaches that might actively cool the world in a short time frame in order to avoid these tipping points.
The tipping points, none of them happen. Look, I really don't need to be told any more about the history of jack shit because I've been alive long enough to watch them prophesy the end of the world that didn't come more times than crazy religious people ever have. They predicted the end more than Bible-beating kooks. So shut up. I don't believe you.
John Kerry was saying there's going to have ice-free summers in the Arctic. Didn't happen. He said that like 20 years ago.
Oh, yeah. When he supposedly went to Antarctica to check the damage, he just didn't go to the climate thing. Instead, he go to Antarctica to check the measurement of how damaging it is.
The experiments, therefore, aim to provide critical data needed to properly assess the potential of the sun-dimming technology. One major area of research, which includes stratospheric aerosol injection, where tiny particles are released into the stratosphere from airplanes and reflect light back into space. They've been doing this forever. Everybody who mocked someone about chemtrails should apologize. Another potential solution is marine cloud brightening, in which boats would release sea salt particles into the sky to increase clouds' ability to reflect sunlight. You know how plants love to be covered in salt. That's good for plants.
I've heard of salting the earth, but have you ever salted the sky?
Isn't it amazing? None of these ideas are we ban private jet travel, end war, stop blowing up Nord Stream pipelines, close down the 900 military bases. The number one emitter of carbon in the U.S. military. Nobody ever mentions doing that. Not Greta Thunberg. Doesn't seem like an
emergency, does it?
What's that?
Doesn't seem like an emergency, does it?
Does it?
If they're not talking about that.
No. In fact, they're all talking about even more oil. A third idea, Barack Obama bragged that they extracted more oil out of the United States when he was president than than ever before. The number one oil extraction president was President Obama. He bragged about it. A third idea is seeding Syria. Joe Biden opened up the Arctic to drilling. A third idea is seeding cirrus clouds in the upper atmosphere to allow more heat to escape into space. However, the topic of geoengineering, the deliberate large-scale manipulation of the Earth's climate system, remains controversial. You think? As some scientists argue that these techniques could have serious unintended consequences on things like food production. You think?
No. Is it okay? Could it be any worse than artificially cocking up viruses?
According to Professor Symes, no toxic substances would be released into the environment. Oh, really? They also told me that the vaccine was safe and effective.
They released that into you.
And they put that into you.
The environment.
They also told me that
body.
2 weeks to flatten the curve, that masks work. They also told me that lockdowns were great, that there was science behind social distancing. They told me all those things.
There wasn't.
No toxic substances are going to be released into the environment from the outdoor experiments alongside outdoor trials. ARIA will fund modeling studies, indoor tests, climate model. Okay. I'm going to show you something. Go to Steph for a second. Let me get it.
Oh, okay, Jimmy. CC Calloway, I wonder how much extra Klaus has to pay for wormhole to mouth. Oh, did I read that one already? Oh, boy. All right. It's me 31. Thank you very much. Fighting 332. Thank you very much. Before you roll your eyes at wormholes and teleportation, just a reminder that quantum entanglement has been proven true numerous times. Agent Archer. Thank you, Agent Archer. Seba Toronto. Thank you, Seba. CC Galloway. Thank you very much. Agent Archer, I read that one. Jimmy, please ask Dr. Lawrence Krauss. Kinky, I read that one already, and I've shared it with the team. Splinkster, late 1880s, Nikola Tesla and torpedo, Navy now, exactly 100 years later. I tested radio-controlled torpedoes now with audio and video. What else is being suppressed? Splinkster. Thank you, Splinkster.
Lawrence Krauss?
Goo 81, thank you, Goo.
populations all over the world is the
Julius
condensation
Patty,
trail.
thank you,
Here,
Julius.
come to me.
All right, back to Jimmy.
This is a documentary called The Dimming.
Perhaps the greatest lie ever perpetrated on populations all over the world is the condensation trail lie. What we're seeing in our skies is not condensation. It's sprayed particulate dispersions with very few exceptions.
They shouldn't be there. Jet engines burn clean. So if there's anything coming out of them, it's an additive.
They're absolutely not contrails. Contrails do not linger, dissipate, and go into cloud coverage, period, in the report.
And I kept saying to people, what is this? Because now the sky is no longer blue. It's starting to turn gray. And what I found was kind of like it was not socially acceptable. We're all going to pretend this is not really happening. And I thought, oh, this is very bad.
Most are unfamiliar with the science term called global dimming. That term refers to the amount of direct sunlight that no longer reaches the surface of the planet due to light scattering particles that are building up in the atmosphere. And although many of these particles are from industrialized pollution, the larger majority are from the ongoing climate engineering solar radiation management operations. This engine, a high bypass turbofan jet engine, this is the engine that is on all military tankers and all commercial carriers, is in essence a jet-powered fan. 90% of the air that moves through this engine is non-combusted. This engine, by design, is nearly incapable of producing any condensation trail except under rare and extreme circumstances. And we have film footage of aircraft flying at altitude with nozzles visible, turning on and off. That is the end of the argument. Since even before man could fly, there was an effort to try to modify the weather. We have weather modification patents going back 100 years plus.
These are historical films of what can be done with a biplane, a small biplane that carries a very small payload. And that much can be done. How much more can a fully loaded military tanker, KC-10, KC-135, C-17 Globemaster, how much more material can they put in the air? About 500 times more with a single tanker.
In regard to the condensation trail narrative, many refer back to the trails left by World War II bombers as proof that we're only seeing condensation trails in our skies. But geoengineeringwatch.org found on military archives film footage, which we posted, of World War II B-17s at altitude turning off a sprayed dispersion. We know that climate engineering was deployed immediately after World War II, so testing was absolutely ongoing. Clearly, these bombers were used for beta testing. Film footage proves it.
Weather was a weapon used over Vietnam. Would you expect that to be then deleted from the availability? No. To continue to expand the scientific aspects of it, to have it available in your portfolio of weapons, would be a natural process. Therefore, should you expect that it is available on demand to have the ability to modify weather? Absolutely, within this country and others.
Climate engineering is the crown jewel of the military-industrial complex. Climate engineering has been used to destabilize and topple nations all over the globe, facilitating military occupations by hostile countries like the U.S. We know that some of these countries are having their precipitation cut off because they have stated so on the floor of the UN, like the president of Iran stating emphatically that NATO weather modification programs were cutting off the precipitation to Iran, but U.S. media never covered it.
We have an economic model operating globally, which is operating based on covert force. And I have very serious questions after watching the financial patterns as to whether that financial force or that force includes weather warfare.
People were coming to me, telling me about this. So because of that, I went to the government in Ottawa under Freedom of Information. There was a 40-page report, of which half the pages were completely blank, and the other half had a lot of blank outs. But there was sufficient information to tell me that, yeah, they're aware. They call it geoengineering.
One of the big problems is that when we find some new technology, we get all excited by it, by the potential benefits of that technology, and often implement it and use the technology before we have any idea of the negative effects.
Shouldn't it be considered that every breath we take is laden with highly toxic particles that are wreaking havoc in our own bodies? Particles that aren't being reported by any air quality testing systems. Any official air quality testing are looking for PM10 or PM2.5, 2.5 microns at best. The climate engineering nanoparticulates are exponentially smaller. They go virtually unreported.
These nanomaterials generate reactive oxygen species in biological materials, damage tissue, lead to advanced aging, cause cancer, causative agents of dementia. So, yeah, we might think that we're doing something positive for humanity to save our species, but we're also poisoning ourselves.
Eventually, with the team that we formed at geoengineeringwatch.org, we were able to acquire a NOAA flying lab. We were able to test at altitude to confirm the elements that were showing up at the surface.
Our intention was to do a point-to-point sampling mission. We could see these obvious patterns that were being laid down in the sky. We were really thankful for the opportunity to be able to get up to altitude. And on the return mission, we noticed that that cloud layer had descended, and we sampled below the cloud layer, we sampled through that confluent layer, and above it.
We found exactly the same elements listed in climate engineering patents, same elements we found in countless surface tests of precipitation from all over the globe. globe and the entire climate science community are telling the population urgently that climate engineering operations, solar radiation management operations need to be immediately deployed to try to mitigate the warming of our planet, to try to preserve what's left of its life support systems. And yet when the public, those that are awake, try to bring to the attention of academia and elected officials that we see climate engineering already being conducted in our skies all over the globe. It's already been deployed. Lab tests prove it. Film footage proves it. Documents prove it. And yet we have the continued denial from the climate science community and official agencies telling us that we're not really seeing what we're seeing in the skies. They tell us if climate engineering were deployed, it would look exactly like what we're seeing in our skies. But then again, they tell us that we're not really seeing what we are actually seeing. The paradox is the more the climate engineers spray the planet, destroy the ozone layer, disrupt the hydrological cycle, and increase the overall warming of the planet, the more they feel they have to ramp these programs up to try to mitigate some of the damage that these programs have done in the first place. That is the true definition of insanity.
As a society, we are like a freight train heading for a broken bridge that is just a few years away from us. And I think people don't understand the exponential increase of toxicity in the environment.
Okay, so you get the idea. We're going to have that guy on, Dane Winnington, next Wednesday. The guy from geoengineeringwatch.org. The guy who's talking in this video.
Yeah, I remember I first heard this word. I think Pasta was the first one to tell me, and I was like, what? And then you find out, no, that's all real. Well, that's true.
Yeah.
Great. Hey, if they do that, they'd hide all kinds of stuff from you, wouldn't they?
Okay, over to Steph.
Okay. Julius Patty, Elon Mizrahi, is an anti-Zionist Jew from Israel. You should invite him on. Thank you for that recommendation. There is a feedback loop where the U.S. government gives Israel $4 billion per year. UK gives $3 billion per year. $7 billion given by the Western Empire can buy a lot of cover. Boy, grasshopper. Do you realize that we'll all blow up from Israeli nukes when Israel unleashes their Samson option, which I believe is getting closer and closer? Kinky. GU 81, the Zionist plan for Palestine since the late 1800s, and Balfour handed it to them in 1917. Holocaust was the propaganda of needing a safe place. The original woke took place in 1948.
Yeah, that's right. That's the original one.
Right? Funky. Jimmy, please have on Moses West, a retired Army Ranger and inventor of the atmospheric water generator. It produced thousands of clean, clear drinking water, and he is giving it away for free. Thank you, Funky. I will share that with the team. We'll make a note of it. Okay. GU 81, another tragedy is that the Yemeni Jews who went to Israel had their children kidnapped by Israel to be experimented on, and kids were disappeared. Go Houthis.
That's true. The Mizrahi Jews, actually, like that guy's name, they put him in like the School of the Americas where they would beat the kids and they couldn't speak. I think they spoke Aramaic or something.
All right.
And then they beat them till they spoke the new Hebrew they'd invented for Zion.
Julius Patty, I have no doubt in my mind that Jordan Peterson is addicted to something. He's losing it faster than he would have if he was trans, Julius.
Hey.
Back to Jimmy.
So big news from Maha. They're getting rid of the chemical dyes that are petroleum-based in our food. That's the big news. RFK Jr. announces intent to phase out synthetic food dyes.
Just in time for the sun to go out.
Yep. That's now the commercial is going to say Skittles, taste the muted greens and browns. RFK Jr. just blew the lid off one of the food industry's dirtiest secrets. What he told his team before facing the food execs left the entire HHS headquarters stunned. Maha just leveled up. So here is the new FDA guy, Dr. Marty Makary, and he's going to tell you that they're getting rid of food dyes. Watch this.
No one ingredient that accounts for the child chronic disease epidemic. And let's be honest, taking petroleum-based food dyes out of the food supply is not a silver bullet that will instantly make America's children healthy. But it is one important step. This administration is not interested in continuing down the path of doing the same old things as we watch our nation's children get sicker. We need fresh, new approaches. Cancer and diabetes in young people is going up at an alarming rate, and nobody seems to know why. We have to turn our attention to underlying causes, such as chemicals and toxins that children are exposed to, not just more insulin and chemotherapy. And let's not forget that the best way to lower drug prices is to stop taking drugs we don't need. 30 states concerned about this very issue have introduced bills or laws with a patchwork of standards for food companies. So the food industry, which has many good people, has asked for clarity. So today, the FDA is taking the following steps. Number one, establishing a national standard and timeline for the food industry to transition from petroleum-based food dyes to natural alternatives. Number two, initiating a process to revoke authorization of synthetic food colorings, including those not in production, namely citrus red number 2 and orange B, within the coming weeks. Number three, taking steps to eliminate the remaining 6 synthetic dyes on the market from the U.S. food supply. Specifically, red dye number 40, yellow dye number 5, yellow dye number 6, blue dye number 1, blue dye number 2, and green dye number 3 by the end of next year.
What are you trying to do? Put the medical profession out of business? Come on. They rely on your children being fed petroleum-based poison for their entire future. They've got kids to feed as well, you know. Selfish bastards. Well, look at this. RFK's plan to phase out synthetic food dyes could face industry pushback. You think?
Why? Because it's some way queerphobic based on these colors.
So these are all those are petroleum-based colors. Petroleum-based.
So,
I'm pretty sure
just so
that
I
means
understand.
oil-based, right? What? Go ahead.
So as a boy, for breakfast, I would eat a bowl of
Fruit Loops.
fructose and petroleum.
Yep.
And we're going to phase it out. I mean, I guess that's good. We're phasing it out. I can't believe everybody in there wasn't going, wait, we've been eating petroleum? Because I really didn't. I didn't know I was just eating petroleum for my whole life.
So you're mean to tell me that the industry that's consciously willing to poison your children is going to push back when you try to stop them? Huh. That's when the man himself, Secretary Robert F. Kennedy, took to the stage. Listen to what he says. This is what he told them. If you want to eat petroleum, put it in your food at home. Watch this.
When my uncle was president, 3% of American kids had chronic disease. Today, it's around 60%. And these are a broad category. The ones that Marty mentioned, like
3% of kids had chronic disease. 60% have chronic disease now. What? And people are mad at RFK Jr. And they're mad at Joe Rogan. They're not. Isn't it amazing? We're a country of adult children of alcoholics. They're not mad at the people who are lying to them and beating them. They're mad at the people who are pointing out that they're being lied to and beaten.
ADHD, neurological disorders, ADD, ADHD, speech delay, language delay, tics, Tourette syndrome, narcolepsy, ASD, and autism. All of these are injuries that I never heard of when I was a kid. They were not part of the nomenclature. They weren't part of the dialogue. There was zero spent in this country treating chronic disease when my uncle was president. Today, it's about $1.8 trillion annually. It's bankrupting our nation. 74% of American kids cannot qualify for military service. Or how are we going to maintain our global leadership with such a sick population? We have all these autoimmune diseases, these exotic diseases. And again, I never heard of juvenile diabetes, rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, Crohn's disease, and 100 others that were just unknown when I was a kid. I never knew anybody with a peanut allergy. I never knew anybody with a food allergy. Why do 5 of my 7 kids have allergies?
Well, Bobby, I bet they have allergies because they didn't receive their 11th booster.
I was going to say anti-Semitism, but that's maybe
probably
why.
anti-Semitism and a combination, yes. Then came the moment that brought the house down. Here it is. Here's the moment. Here we go.
And when I went in about a month ago, to meet with the food companies, I was talking with my staff about these petroleum-based dyes, and I said, if they want to add petroleum, if they want to eat petroleum, they ought to add it themselves at home. But they shouldn't be feeding it to the rest of us. And without our knowledge or consent. And unfortunately, we're going to get rid of the dyes, and then one by one, we're going to get rid of every ingredient, an additive in food that we can legally address.
So how are kids supposed to build up their toxic environment immune systems? I mean, when they step outside to breathe in aluminum that's been cloud seeded into the air. Come on. I like that. Hey, if you want to eat petroleum, add it in your food at home.
Well, maybe I will.
So here's his plan to win.
It's not the time to stop. It's the time to redouble your efforts because we have them on the run now. And we are going to win this battle. And 4 years from now, we're going to have most of these products off the market, or you will know about them when you go in the grocery store. So I want to thank you. And finally, and most importantly, I want to thank President Trump. President Trump often, says that he's going to make America great again. But he knows that he cannot make our country great again if our country is weak, if we're not healthy, if we don't have vigor, if we're not a robust people. He says that he's going to restore the American dream. And a healthy person has 1,000 dreams. The sick person only has one. And right now, there's 60% of the people in this country who have only one dream. If they can make it through a day without pain, with energy, without having to take medications. And we are going to change that for our country. And I want to thank the moms and thank President Trump for his confidence in my leadership and for allowing me to surround myself with such an extraordinary team of scientists who are going to restore transparency to this agency, who are going to do replicated science, who are going to restore gold standard science so we know what's in our food and we can eliminate it. Thank you all very much.
All right, what's with the Maha people always wanting to know what's in their food? Have they never eaten sausage? Come on,
Yeah,
you don't want to know what's in
There's
there.
one rule that you don't want to know. Now, I'm going to, after this, Jimmy, have a big bowl of ravioli and petroleum jelly. Ravioli and lube for dinner tonight.
You've never been.
You've never had it?
Never had that. Never had that. Are you really going to have that?
That is not a joke. That's a straight fact.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fettuccine and lube tonight.
All right. That's our show for today. Steph, you got some more? Okay,
our life. Can you give me a pretty background, Jim? Yeah, so stand by. I'm going to read a lot, and then you tell me when you're ready. Okay. We're all working for big anti-genocide, another worldview. Thank you for that one, another worldview. Nick seems like a literal Fed. Oh, that's funny. Is that Hayataya? How do I say that? Hayataya? And you have it spelled. Okay, gotcha. Please stop with the gong. My family just laughs and keeps dead naming me even after I tell them over and over I'm Cherubus now. S. Ford, hilarious. Stop gaslighting. Okay, that's Rubber Toe. Gotcha. All right. John Goodwin. Oh, I read that one already, John. Thank you for that one, John. All right. Okay. All right. Here we go. Wonder if dimming the sun is good for plants and food production. Right? I wonder about that too. I think the UK needs to rethink their costing of the Dim the Sun program. After all, if they start spraying aluminum everywhere, Trump will start charge them a tariff for brining aluminum into the USA. Or is that bringing aluminum? MD Chell, is this Metachell? This all sounds like a giant terraforming project for our alien overlords. Dobther, my suspicion is there's warming which will be and is an advantage for Russia, and they want to curtail that. Dobther. All right, how do you feel, Jim?
You got any more?
Yeah, I've got plenty.
Go ahead.
Okay, Agent Archer, if you want to hear more of Ashton Forbes research, Ian. Can you give me the shows, if that's possible? Thank you. You should do more stuff in studio today. Okay. Okay, I read that one already. Is this Recoff? HARP microwave array weather control. Google it. HARP microwave array weather. Thank you. Hey, can you show camera 4 big screen? Oh, that looks great. I wanted to show everybody our shows that are coming up. Two Roads. We're going to be also in Bakersfield, San Jose, Buffalo, Toledo, right? Toledo and Montreal, Toronto. Our shows are sold out. Ottawa. Check them out. And if you want to know more about our upcoming shows, go to jimmydore.com. That's jimmydore.com. Look at that beautiful signage on sale now. UK and Ireland tour, and you can come back to Steffi Z with that beside me. The plan to dim the sun has nothing to do with climate change. It's all about control. A depressed, weak population is less likely to fight back and easier to control. I saw this weekend in LA. We had a beautiful sky. It was like looking great, and then all of a sudden, I see all these chemtrails. Yeah, now it's cold. Did he? Yeah. Tell him we have so much in common. Please let him know that. It's bullshit, these chemtrails. What are they doing? How about it's the amount of secrets kept from the American public is horrifying. Right? But there's no such thing as chemtrails. You're just like, you're crazy. P.W. Walker, thank you so much, P.W. We're going to need the citizens of Wisconsin to stop drinking so much beer. The methane levels far exceed what cows emit nationwide, my_war. I'm not sure if that's true, but thank you for the update. A.J. Murray, Mr. Dore.
Yeah.
I'm old enough to remember when overpopulation was going to kill us all. Now we have to have open borders because we're below replacement level. A.J. Murray. Thank you, A.J. Murray. Rubber Toe, the UK solar plant involves spraying aluminum to dim the sunlight, ignoring fossil fuel use. It risks neurotoxicity and pollution while letting industries continue burning fossil fuels. Dangerous shortcut. Rubber Toe. Thank you, Rubber Toe. Dopther, you give me a math equation here. It's 2C112H26 plus 3702. Is that greater than 24CO2 plus 26H2O? Equation of jet fuel burning plenty of water as byproduct. Okay. Jimmy, please have on Moses West, a retired Army Ranger and inventor of the atmospheric water generator. It produces thousands of clean, clear drinking water, and he is giving it away for free. I will share that, Funky. I think I've already shared it, but I'll make sure to share it with the team. I'm old enough to remember, okay, this is from A.J. Murray. I'm old enough to remember when overpopulation was going to kill us all. Now we have to open borders because we're below replacement level. Giraffe Rider, the first trans AI baby is here, and it runs the WEF. Giraffe Rider. So happy and impressed, Jimmy, that you highlighted The Dimming by Dane Wigington. Been trying to educate people for over 15 years. No one ever cared. Breeze Lover. Thank you, Breeze Lover. What happens when populations all over the world find out what their government has done to them without their knowledge or consent? Dane Whittington, Geoengineering Watch. I wrapped them, Jim, just so you know. I'll see if I find any more, but for the most part, I think I got to.
Okay, we can go.
Okay, go to Jimmy. Stand by.
Hey, everybody, it's Jimmy. That's me, Jimmy Dore. That's right. I'm the host of the Jimmy Dore Show. Did you know that? We know you're proud to be a fan and a supporter of the show, but do your friends, your family, your neighbors, and random strangers? You can inform all those important and not so important people in your life about your love of the show with one of these. It's the authentic and branded Jimmy Dore Show t-shirts. We've got the classic logo, Jimmy Dore, and we also have the Jimmy Dore Show pop art. Look at that. Look at that. Nice, huh? And we also have one of my favorites, It's the Frederick Douglass quote. I would unite with anybody to do right and with nobody to do wrong. It's all available now at our website. Just go to jimmydore.com, then shop the merch, and you'll see there and many more options. And just click on mugs. Also, how about mugs? We got the mugs made in America. This is one of my favorites. It says "Vaxxed and Worried." Nice. We also have
that'll go over big with the guests. Their friends at the
This
office.
is a great mug. It says "Made in America" on the bottom. Jagoff, very thick, nice handle, thick glass. I love this one. Plus, we have stuff like this over there.
Mouse
pads. We got your Jimmy Dore Show stickers and logos, and we got your what do you call those? Coasters. Look at that. Look at this. Coasters, more coasters. So what are you waiting for? Get your Jimmy Dore Show t-shirt, mugs, coasters. Go get them today, jimmydore.com. Okay.